you must have software, relationship management software. I've got proprietary software for our mastermind members. And so this software, all the leads automatically, there's another piece of the automation, all the leads when they come in from Google, when they come in from Facebook, they go straight into our software system. And so then I have my acquisitionist follow up with the leads. And then me and my acquisitionist communicate inside the software. We're not spending time on the telephone talking about deals. It's all done inside the software. So as a result, I get to review all the leads that are coming in my software in a matter of 15 minutes per day. So software will automate your business. I used to be the most disorganized person on the planet trying to run this business with Post-it notes, if you can believe. So don't try to run this real estate investing business on a yellow pad. You got to have your software where you're communicating with everybody on your team. And
if you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Hello and welcome. So excited to be with you today. I am here with Jay Conner, who is a real estate investor who has rehabbed over 475 houses. He's invested in over $118 million in transactions. Jay has completely automated his annual 7-figure income business. So where he works on buying and selling houses less than 10 hours a week, which is awesome. We're going to talk about how he does that today. So Jay, welcome to the show.
Well, hello there, Brian. Thank you so much for inviting me to come along to talk about one of my most favorite topics, and that's private money for real estate, because it's had the biggest impact on our business. So like you, Brian, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm pumped for our conversation. So Jay, we usually ask guests to just rewind the clock to the very beginning, how you got started in real estate. You know, not everyone, I mean, you know, sure, you have a 7-figure business today, but most of the audience does not have that success yet. They want to get there. So take us back to your humble beginnings.
Sure. Well, I was actually raised in the mobile home business, manufactured housing. I live here in Eastern North Carolina, and my dad and his company was in the manufactured housing business, which was targeted to help people own affordable housing. Well, in the early 2000s, the consumer financing for that product went away, like totally went away. And I knew if I ever got out of mobile homes, I wanted to get into single family houses. So it was in 2003 that my wife, Carol Joy, and I started investing in single family houses here in Eastern North Carolina. Our first year, we only did 3 houses our first year. And this was back in the day, Brian, where you could get an unsecured line of credit at the bank. I had a $250,000 unsecured line of credit. This was prior to me knowing anything about private money and all that kind of stuff. And so that went, well, we started scaling our business, started doing more deals, but we kept all of our business, and we still have to this day here in Eastern North Carolina, where I do 2 to 3 deals a month, but our average profits now are over $82,000 per deal
per house,
and a population of only 40,000.
Oh, so yeah, so it's a small town, and you're still. So I'm guessing that the home prices there are not astronomical, but you're able to see those very high profit margins on relatively affordable homes, is what I'm guessing.
So the median price is right at 300,000, 325,000 here in our area. And so the point of that story is not to brag on myself, but to make a point. And that is, you don't have to be, as a real estate investor, in a huge populated area, make some, significant, income. And excuse me, with that, excuse me a second. Swallow. I got to get me a Sonic drink real quick.
Yeah, take your time.
There we go. So anyway, we've been focused here in that area all this time. Well, the first 6 years, Brian, that we were invested in single family houses, all I knew to do was to rely on the local banks. So from 2003 to January 2009, I just had a relationship with a local bank here to fund my deals. And in January 2009, I got cut off from the bank, had lost my line of credit at the bank. I had a great relationship with them, but we had the global financial crisis going on, And so I learned about private money. What's private money? That's, getting business or getting funding from an individual, a human being. And so I learned about private funding. And so I was able to raise $2,150,000 in less than 90 days of private funding. And so that was the biggest blessing in disguise of getting cut off from the bank in January 2009. You had all these foreclosures going on. The banks were not lending money. So if you wanted to buy foreclosures, you had to have the cash or cash available to you. Listen, Brian, our business tripled in 2009 over what it had been because I had all this private money available, and I was able to pick and choose the deals that I wanted to do. And since that time, I've never missed out on a deal for not having the funding available.
Well, it's funny. I started in real estate single family real estate around the same time you did around 2003. And that's when I graduated college and started working in this field. And I was actually working for a hard money lender at the time. But yeah, I mean, in those days, if you had a pulse, you could get a mortgage loan, right? This is like the peak of the subprime housing or subprime mortgage lending boom. And then in 2009, 2008, and through like 2012-ish, you couldn't get a loan even if you had stellar credit. And so the pendulum swung from one extreme to the other. But I love that obstacle, it always ends up being a bridge to growth if you are willing to look at it like that, right? So you had been relying on this credit limit from the bank, which is limited, of course, and when that went away, you had to look elsewhere, and you tapped into a far higher amount of credit available. But you never, well, I don't want to say never, but it was that challenge that spurred you to get more creative and look further afield, right? And they pushed you to look.
Absolutely. As you said, growth takes place in the valley. Growth takes place in the valley. And, by the way, these people that are walking around saying, well, every problem's an opportunity. I wanted to throw up. I didn't have no opportunity. I had a problem. I had 2 deals under contract and no way to get them funded. And I literally sat right here at this very desk when I learned that the bank had shut me down. I asked myself a very important question, and that was, who can help me with my problem? Who can help me with my problem? So I immediately thought of a friend of ours that lived in Greensboro, North Carolina, Jeff Blankenship. I called him up. I told him what happened. And he was actually the first person that ever said private money. I never heard of private money and hard money and all that kind of stuff. So I had to find a better and quicker way to fund my deals that put me more in control. The traditional way of borrowing money is you go to the bank or you go to the lender and you get on your hands and knees and you beg and you say, please fund my deal. But that's not the deal here in this world of private money. We make the rules. We set the interest rate. We set the term. So instead of asking for a mortgage, we offer mortgages to our private lenders. And so we don't beg, chase, persuade, try to sell, try to talk anybody into anything. We just make our private lending program available to regular people like you and me. And so that's how I was able to raise over $2 million in less than 90 days, which was a lot more than the bank had given me at the time. I had $1 million. So the way that I do private money really puts the real estate investor in the driver's seat.
Well, let's pause for just a moment to make sure that everyone understands what we mean when we talk about hard money versus private money, because even though they're similar, they're not the same thing. So let's just pause and I want you to go ahead and invest or describe this in your own words, the difference between a private lender and a hard money lender.
Yeah. Typically, a hard money lender is a brokerage or is a broker of money, to where the hard money lender brokerage goes out and raises money from private lenders, individuals, to invest in their fund. And then the hard money lender turns around and loans that money out from that fund. that private lenders have invested in. And then, they'll charge origination fees and points and et cetera. And by the way, I'm not knocking hard money lenders. Some of my best friends on the planet are hard money lenders. I say have as many relationships in place as you can. However, in contrast to hard money, a private lender is an individual like you and me, a human being that loans money either from their investment capital and or their retirement funds to us real estate entrepreneurs, us real estate investors. So the private lender, an individual, acts in the same capacity as a bank. We give them the same protection. We're not borrowing unsecured funds. We're backing those notes, the promissory notes, with a mortgage or deed of trust. So that gives them security. We name them as a mortgagee on the insurance policy, and et cetera. So again, you're not borrowing institutional money. All right. There's no middle person involved. And everything that we do with a private lender is what we call a one-off. Well, what in the world is a one-off? A one-off means is you have a private lender or maybe a couple of private lenders that are funding your single family house deal. And they are each getting their own promissory note and getting their own mortgage or deed of trust. So in the world of single family houses, we're not raising money for a fund like you would for apartments or commercial deals. It's right. A private lender or a couple of private lenders are funding a single family house.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's like you said, it's private individuals, often friends, family, lending you their personal funds for your real estate deals. We actually, in our investment club, we run a passive real estate investing club where we get together once a month and we vet different deals together and we go in on them together. We actually just this past week met with a real estate investor based up in Michigan, and we're lending him private money basically. And getting it secured with a lien and getting a personal guarantee from him, a corporate guarantee, all that good stuff. So yeah, no, it's a great way to diversify. I've got some other private money loans out with other investors around the country. I love private money, and it's something that a lot of real estate investors don't fully appreciate or understand. And one question that I hear from a lot of mom and pop real estate investors who are thinking about trying to raise some private money from friends and family or from other individuals is, aren't I going to pay a higher interest rate to them than to a bank? And I have my own response that I tell those people, but I'm curious to hear your response when people ask you that question.
Sure. Well, I pay all my private lenders, all 47 of them, the same thing. It's just the same program. And I've been paying the same thing ever since 2009. So I pay 8% in first position. If someone's just funding the rehab of a deal, we pay 10%. But there's no origination fees. It's just a straight 8 or 10%. Prior to COVID, the average 12-month CD yield in the local bank got all the way down to 0.17%. Right. And so 8% was like, how many times more than 0.1% is that? Today, I'm still paying 8%. And, people will ask me sometimes and say, well, look, rates have gone up so much. Why aren't you paying your private lenders more than 8%? Right here at First Citizens Bank down the street, you can now get a 4.5%, in a CD. And I say, well, it's real simple. 8% for my private lenders is still a whole lot more than 4.5%, right? So, when you're doing business such as yourself, Brian, who's a hard money lender, then it's a negotiation process, right? But when you put on your teacher hat, which I have right here, my private lender teacher hat, when you put on your private lender teacher hat and you're teaching people that have never heard of private money, that have never heard of self-directed IRAs, and how they can use retirement funds and get tax-deferred income unlimited or, tax-free income unlimited depending on their retirement account, then, it's like they never heard of this. And it's like fantastic. All 47 of my private lenders never even heard of private money or private lending or self-directed IRAs until I put on my teacher hat and I taught them about it.
Yeah. So your response to them is similar to mine when people ask that question is, yes, you might pay a little bit more in interest to a private lender, to your friend or family member. But you get a couple of things for that. One, you're typically not paying them points, right? So you're saving money in the upfront fees. And for a short-term like flip loan or a renovation loan for purchase rehab or the Burr method, most of what you're paying the lender is in points and fees. It's not, you're only going to have the loan for a few months, right? So it doesn't matter if you're paying 10, 12, 14% if you're only making 5 monthly payments. The real loss there is in the junk fees and in the points. So you don't have any points when you pay a private lender, and it's flex funding, right? You can use that money towards different projects that you need on the timetable that you need. So you can go out there and make cash offers on a really distressed property and close in 4 days from now if you need to. No lender is going to move in that kind of time frame, right? So I love that. Jay, I want to ask you about your automation in your business. But before we do that, is there anything else any closing thoughts that you want to say about borrowing money privately? Actually, there is one question beyond that I wanted to ask you about private money. And that's, how do you go about approaching friends, family members, neighbors, colleagues, people that you have a personal relationship with about borrowing private money from them without feeling sleazy, salesy, anything like that? Like, what's your approach?
Yeah. Well, it all comes back to your mindset, right? So if you have got a mindset of asking people for money, well, that's no good, right?
Yeah.
And the mindset that I lead with and that my students lead with is, I'm serving these people. I'm not asking anybody for money. I'm showing them how they can get high rates of return safely and securely without talking about a deal. I mean, the worst time to be raising money is when you need it for a deal, right? So first we just put on our teacher hat and we share with people. It could be over coffee. I mean, I've raised $969,000 at one private lender luncheon where I just invited people to lunch. I brought my CPA, my realtor, my real estate attorney, and I just taught them what private lending was all about without having any kind of deal involved. Desperation has got a smell to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're talking private money and you got a deal that you're looking for funding, you're already sounding desperate. So we separate the conversation of teaching people what it is, how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely, and then having a deal for them to fund. I've never pitched a deal. I call up my new private lenders and my existing private lenders with what I call the good news phone call. Well, what's the good news phone call? Well, I call them up. I say, I've got great news. I can now put your money to work for you. See, they've already told me how much they've got, particularly if I've introduced them to the self-directed IRA company and they've moved retirement funds over. So I know what they've got to fund or how much they got to work with. So I call them up. I say, I got great news. I can now put your money to work. And then I'll tell them 4 things about a deal. I'll say, I got a house in Newport with an after repaired value of $200,000. The funding required for the deal is $150,000. I know they got $150,000. They already told me. They've been sitting by the phone waiting. And I'll say, closing's next Tuesday. You need to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney by next Monday. I'll have my attorney email you wiring instructions. Well, boom, that's the end of the conversation. The most stupid thing I could ask them in the world is, do you want to fund the deal? Of course they want to fund the deal. They've been sitting by the phone waiting for the phone call because I told them I would put their money to work for them just as soon as possible.
I love that. Jay, any final thoughts about raising private money that you want people to know before we switch gears and start talking about automation?
Sure. I would love to give your listeners and your audience my book, and that would cover everything else about private money. So we can do that, or we can do it after we talk about automation.
Well, do you have a URL for them to go to get a copy of your book?
Absolutely. So you can, it's a real book. You can't download this. We actually priority mail it to you. The book is free, just pay for postage. So the URL is jayconner, JayConner.com/book. That's jayconner with an ER, JayConner.com/book. I'll autograph it and I'll priority mail it to you.
Awesome. Love it. And we'll put that link in the comments for the episode as well. So Jay, I understand you work like 10 hours a week on your real estate flipping business. So tell us about that and how you were able to do that.
So automation, when we say automation, automation happens either through other people and or technology. So we use both. So I have an acquisitionist. I got the same acquisitionist that's been talking to all of my sellers for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
So that's a big piece of the automation, is that she's handling all the phone calls, doing all the follow-up. Another part of the automation is my job personally is to make sure the marketing machine is turned on, meaning we got seller leads coming in to our funnel, our pipeline every day. So how is that automated? Well, I've got 3 different pay-per-lead services, Google pay-per-lead services, that have got leads coming into us every day. Another piece of the automation is I have a virtual assistant that's in charge of our Facebook ads that are going up every day. Another part of automation is we direct mail to all foreclosures and pre-probates. Well, I have an assistant that's a retired lady, works out of her home, that's in charge of our direct mail. So I learned from my dad, for automation to be in place, you need to be a 3D person, which stands for dictate, delegate, and disappear. Now, another part of the automation is our software. So here is something very, very important that comes down to efficiency and automation. And that is, in my opinion, you must have software, customer relationship management software. I've got proprietary software for our mastermind members. And so this software, all the leads automatically, there's another piece of the automation, all the leads when they come in from Google, when they come in from Facebook, they go straight into our software system. And so then I have my acquisitionist follow up with the leads. And then me and my acquisitionist communicate inside the software. We're not spending time on the telephone talking about deals. It's all done inside the software. So as a result, I get to review all the leads that are coming in my software in a matter of 15 minutes per day. So software will automate your business. I used to be the most disorganized person on the planet, trying to run this business with Post-it notes, if you can believe. So don't try to run this real estate investing business on a yellow pad. You got to have your software where you're communicating with everybody on your team. And look, if you don't have a team, then you got to be communicating with yourself, keeping up with all your notes of all your leads coming in to the software.
Yeah, all logged in one place so that there's never any he said, she said between you and your team members. Absolutely. I love that. Well, Jay, I want to be respectful of your time here, but do you have any final tips, tricks, hacks that you want to share with our members?
Anybody that's brand new looking to get into real estate, do not start this business by yourself. Get yourself a coach or a mentor like Brian Davis or somebody in your local area that can hold your hand. Don't start this business the way I did by trying to read books and go out there and do it. Because let me tell you something, you're going to pay for your education one way or the other. You know what I mean? So do it the smart way.
Yeah, I wish that I had taken that advice to heart when I was in my early to mid 20s and I first started investing in real estate. Made every mistake in the book because, I had that arrogance of youth, right? Where, you think, oh, I can figure this all out by myself. I'm smarter than these guys, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, the universe serves you a nice big slice of humble pie, right?
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on today. We hope to have you back soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian. God bless you.
Absolutely. And guys, please, if you enjoy these conversations that we have, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It means the world to us. We appreciate it. And we will catch you next week. Same place, same time. Bye now.
Like the idea of diversifying into real estate, but don't want the headaches of being a landlord? Enter passive real estate syndications. You buy fractional ownership in apartment complexes and other large-scale properties. Earn your share of rental income and your share of the profits when the property sells. In fact, most of the syndicators we've invested with have averaged returns over 20% per year. You even get full tax benefits, including accelerated depreciation. Even as you collect distributions in real life, you often report a loss on your tax return. So why doesn't everyone invest in real estate syndications? First, you typically need to know the syndicator to invest. and the minimum investment for each property is high, usually $50,000 to $100,000. That's a lot of money for a single investment, which is precisely why we formed an investment club to pool funds and invest together. Every month, we propose a new deal in the co-investing club and vet it together on a group call with the syndicator. Each deal is purely optional. Pass or invest as you like. As for us, we invest our personal money alongside you in every single deal. If you want to invest like the 1% without actually being a 1%er, join Spark Rentals Co-Investing Club. Email us at support@sparkrental.com with questions, and we look forward to investing alongside you.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Conner.